The story of this land is a story of memory. Not the memory of written words, but a deeper, more elemental kind, held in the very substance of the place itself. The oldest human chapter is here, a whisper in the stone, a vision of a world where the veil between the physical and the spiritual was thin, painted onto the walls of a granite shelter thousands of years ago. This art is not a record of what was seen, but of what was understood, that to survive here required a conversation with the land, not a command. This single, fragile figure, protected from the sun and the rain, is the beginning of a long and often broken narrative. This is a land where the Earth's oldest stone, the craton, that forms the very foundation of the continent, holds the continent's oldest art, whispers from a consciousness that saw the world not as a resource, but as a spirit. It is a place where the ghosts of a medieval empire still organize the silence of an empty valley, their mortarless walls a testament to a forgotten ambition. It is a landscape where the line between unimaginable abundance and absolute survival is not a line at all, but a shimmering, shifting frontier, redrawn every single morning by the rising of an unforgiving sun. This is the story of that negotiation, an exploration of how the immense, quiet, and constant pressure of the African continent has forged a landscape of extreme and profound contrasts, and in turn, a human existence that has learned not to conquer the land, but to listen to its deep, its ancient, and its often unforgiving rhythms. All life here, in this specific geography, begins and ends with the river, the Zambezi. Before it was dammed, before it was named, before it was a line on a map separating nations, it was a geological force, a seasonal pulse of water and silt that was the sole author of this landscape. Here, on the floodplain of Mana Pools, the river's memory is the organizing principle of all existence. This is not just land, it is a text, written and rewritten annually by the flood. Each year, the waters would swell, pushing out from the main channel, submerging this entire valley, depositing a fresh layer of life-giving silt. And as they recede, they leave behind a world reborn. This cycle engineered a forest of albida trees, a species that operates on a logic inverse to the rest of the woodland. They come into leaf not in the wet season, but in the dry, offering shade and protein-rich pods when the rest of the landscape is scorched, bare, and desperate. This is not an accident of nature. It is a perfect, intricate symbiosis, a system of survival designed by the patient, repetitive genius of water and time. To witness an elephant rise on its hind legs to reach these high branches is to witness not a trick, but a form of inherited wisdom. It is a physical knowledge of the landscape's unique generosity, a memory passed down through countless generations, an embodied understanding that survival here depends not on fighting the seasons, but on adapting to the river's unique and benevolent logic. The animal's posture is a prayer to the tree, and the tree's existence is a gift from the river. But what happens when human logic, with its belief in permanence and control, attempts to impose its own will upon the river's ancient, cyclical narrative? 180 miles upstream, the Zambezi is arrested. Its pulse, which had beaten for millennia, is stopped by the Kariba Dam. Here, the river's immense energy was converted into electrical power, its kinetic force translated into the language of grids and kilowatts. Its water, denied its natural path, was forced to swell, to back up, creating one of the largest man-made lakes on the face of the earth. The drowned forest that remains is not a natural feature. It is a memorial, a silent, skeletal testament to the valley that was sacrificed for this ambition. Each white, leafless trunk is a tombstone for a world that is no longer there. A new ecosystem was born from this drowning, one based not on the seasonal flood, but on the permanent, static, and unnatural depth of the lake. For the Tonga people who had lived in the Gwemba Valley for centuries, whose entire cosmology was woven into the river's rhythms, this was not progress. It was an apocalypse. Their homes, their farms, their ancestral graves, the very ground that held their identity, were submerged beneath the slow, inexorable rise of the water. Their god, the river god Nyaminyami, was separated from his people by a wall of concrete. They were relocated to the dry, infertile hills above, forced to learn a new way of survival, a new relationship with a landscape that was no longer theirs, a landscape that held no memory of them. The Kapenta fishermen, who now work these waters at night, their lights attracting shoals of small silver fish that were introduced to the lake, are part of this new economy, this new fragile negotiation. Their existence is a direct consequence of that monumental act of intervention, a life made possible only by the complete erasure of another. The lake provides, but it does so with a quiet, unsettling stillness, a constant, silent reminder that this abundance was created not by the land, but by its drowning. Further south, away from the grand narrative of the river, the continent's logic changes. It shifts from the fluid dynamics of water to the immense geological patience of stone. The Matobo Hills are not a mountain range, not a product of violent tectonic collision. They are an exhumation. A landscape of granite domes pushed up from the Earth's molten heart 2 billion years ago and then slowly, patiently weathered by wind and rain into these impossible sculptural forms. This is a place that feels older than life itself, a world of pure geology, the planet's bones laid bare. To walk here is to feel the profound weight of deep time, to exist in a silence that is not empty, but full of an ancient, watchful, and elemental presence. And within the cool, dark wombs of these granite shelters, another kind of memory is held, one measured not in geological epochs, but in human consciousness. For thousands of years, this was the sanctuary of the Sand people. They moved through this landscape of stone, not as conquerors, but as participants. They left their stories, their cosmology, their entire way of seeing, not in books, but on the stone itself. Their art is a delicate spiritual mapping of their world. These are not simple depictions of a hunt, not a mere record of daily life. They are a record of a consciousness, a testament to a life lived in such profound intimacy with the land that the boundary between the human and the animal, the physical and the metaphysical, was porous, indistinct, and constantly in flux. The elongated figures, the strange, powerful shamans, the animals that seem to bleed from the rock itself. This is the visual language of trance, of a journey into the spirit world. This is history, written on the oldest canvas on Earth, a story of survival based not on dominance, but on a deep, respectful, and participatory understanding of the spirit of a place. Less than 100 miles away, stone tells an entirely different story. It speaks not of spiritual intimacy, but of centralized power, of social hierarchy, of empire. This is Great Zimbabwe. Between the 11th and 15th centuries, a civilization rose here, harnessing the wealth of the surrounding plateau. Gold from the scattered reefs, ivory from the elephant herds, and power from the control of cattle, to build a capital of stone on a scale unmatched in sub-Saharan Africa. These walls, rising over 30 feet, were not built to keep invaders out. There is no evidence of major warfare. They were built to project power inward, to separate the elite who lived within the enclosure from the common people who lived without. This was an architecture of exclusion, a physical manifestation of a social theory. The sheer, almost unimaginable labor required to quarry, transport, and fit these millions of granite blocks without mortar speaks of a society of immense complexity, organization, and control. This was the heart of a vast trading network that reached the Swahili coast, and from there, as far as China, a center of commerce and political authority that dominated the entire region for centuries. And then it fell silent. The city was not conquered, it was abandoned. The reasons are still debated. A shift in trade routes, a changing climate that could no longer support a large population, the exhaustion of local resources like firewood and grazing land. What remains is the architecture of that power, now empty, its purpose gone, its silence a profound and unsettling counterpoint to the grandeur of its construction. Matobo and Great Zimbabwe are two starkly different answers to the same fundamental question of how to live in this land. One, a quiet, centuries-long conversation with the stone. The other, a loud, declarative command issued to it. One story is of a people who moved lightly through the landscape, leaving only their dreams on the walls. The other is of a people who organized the landscape to reflect their own ambition, leaving behind a monument whose quiet, wind-swept emptiness now asks more questions than it can ever answer. In the east, along the long border with Mozambique, the landscape rises, its elevation catching the moist air, moving inland from the Indian Ocean and creating a world apart. The Eastern Highlands are a spine of mountains that function as a climatic barrier, a vertical island of cool, wet forest in a continent so often defined by heat and drought. To be here is to experience a different set of natural laws, a different set of challenges. The fundamental problem is not the search for water, which is abundant, but the constant, lifelong negotiation with gradient. In the Chimanimani Range, life clings to the steep slopes. The quartzite peaks, sharp and white, are the bones of the earth, exposed and raw, a landscape of breathtaking, unforgiving beauty. The communities that live in the shadow of these mountains have learned to cultivate a vertical world. Their small farms are terraced into the hillsides with a precision born of absolute necessity, each retaining wall a carefully placed line in a long, patient conversation with gravity. This is a life of relative isolation, governed by the seasons, by the coming and going of the rains, and by the immense, quiet, and often cloud-shrouded presence of the mountain. Survival here is a form of architecture, a slow, patient construction of a life built not on the luxury of flat ground, but within the challenging and uniquely rewarding logic of the altitude. It is a life that builds resilience not through expansion, but through a deep, localized knowledge of a single, difficult, and beautiful place. But away from the mountains, away from the great river, the land is defined by a single, overriding and brutal imperative: the search for water. Hwanga National Park is a vast expanse of Kalahari sand, a landscape that for much of the year offers almost nothing to drink. The immense herds of wildlife that make this place famous are not, as one might assume, a testament to a natural, self-sustaining abundance. They are, in fact, a testament to a modern, man-made intervention. Most of the waterholes that are the focal points of life here are artificial, fed by boreholes drilled deep into the earth, a lifeline that sustains this entire ecosystem through the long, brutal, dry season. This creates a profound and unsettling paradox, a spectacle of extraordinary biodiversity that is entirely dependent on a system of artificial life support. The wilderness here is, in a sense, curated. The waterhole becomes a theater of survival, a truce of desperation, where predator and prey stand side by side, their ancient enmity temporarily suspended by a more powerful, shared thirst. This is not a pristine, untouched wilderness. It is a managed landscape, a fragile and complex negotiation between human responsibility and the unforgiving realities of a changing climate. It is a testament to a conservation ethic that has chosen to intervene, to hold back the forces of drought, but in doing so has created a dependency that can never be relinquished. Further southeast, in the place of elephants, lies Gonareju. This is a wilder, more elemental landscape, a place that feels less managed, less mediated by human intervention. Here, the drama is not just about the scarcity of water, but about the immense power of the animals themselves to shape and engineer their own environment. The park's great elephant herds, some of the largest and least habituated on the continent, are not just inhabitants of this landscape. They are its primary architects. They topple trees, creating grasslands. They forge pathways that become conduits for other species. They dig for water in dry riverbeds, opening up sources that other animals can then use. Their daily existence is a constant, powerful act of ecological engineering. But this raw, untamed wilderness exists on a knife's edge. The park's boundaries are not just lines on a map. They are the front lines of a deep and intractable conflict, a struggle for resources between a growing, land-hungry human population and the needs of the wildlife. For the communities living on the edge of the park, the elephant is not a majestic symbol of the wild to be admired from a distance. It is a threat, a powerful, intelligent, and often destructive competitor for the land, the crops, and the water that ensures their own survival. This is the most fundamental negotiation of all, a daily and often dangerous conversation about who has the right to the land, a question that has no easy answer in a world of diminishing resources and colliding needs. It is the point where the logic of conservation meets the logic of human survival, and the ground between them is often unforgiving. From the thundering, life-giving power of the Zambezi to the silent, watchful stone of Matobo, from the misty green peaks of the highlands to the sun-scorched, thirsty earth of the low veld. A single, unifying logic reveals itself, a theme that repeats in countless variations. In this land, survival, whether for a plant, an animal, or a human culture, has never been about conquest. It has been about adaptation, about accommodation, about a long and patient listening to the Earth's own terms. The architecture of Great Zimbabwe, the art of the San, the terraced farms of the Chimanimani, the elephant's long memory of where to find water, all are expressions of this same deep wisdom. They are different answers, born of different pressures, to the same fundamental questions the land is always asking. What has persisted here is not the result of favorable circumstance or abundant resources, but of a profound, inherited familiarity with pressure, with scarcity, and with impermanence. It is the accumulated understanding that the most resilient form of life is not the one that demands the world conform to its needs, but the one that learns the subtle, the difficult, and the beautiful art of living within the world as it is. As the modern world, with its assumptions of endless growth and control, begins to confront its own future of scarcity and instability, this ancient landscape no longer looks like a relic of a distant, irrelevant past. It begins to feel like a lesson, a quiet but powerful testament that the most enduring civilizations are not always those that build the highest walls or the most powerful engines. They are the ones that learn to listen most closely to the earth, to understand its materials, to respect its forces, and to build their lives in harmony with its oldest, most powerful, and most unforgiving rhythms. A form of wisdom the world has largely forgotten, a wisdom it may desperately need to remember.